terminology.
Evening, everyone. Thank you to our sustainability members again for coming out for our March meeting and to the public who will be watching this later. I will now turn it over to our chair, Bridget Dix.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so we have one order of old business. That's Ashley Weldy's memorial. We're updating that. I don't know, Greg, did you want to touch a little bit on some of the finer details of that, and then we can go into the speech and everything else? I don't.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Bridget. So we had our second follow-up meeting, and by me, my we, I mean Chris Bradbury and the village administrator, myself, the town, and the town representatives, or the town of Rye administrator, which is Debbie Reisner, and then Pamela Jaffe, who is the town council, as well as Colin Byrne, who we all know is the superintendent. So there is going to be a bit of a change of plans from the last meeting that we had, the last update gave you guys, and the reason for that is in large part so we can include the school district because what Colin told us is that it's still going to be regular school day. So originally, just to kind of do a little bit of a recap, the plan was to start over at like about Harkness and then head over to Richard School so they can show us their greenhouse and head over to Crawford. But the school district cannot do that because they can't be out of school for like three hours or give or take that it would take to do this. So rather than doing the morning, we're going to have to do something which we don't typically do for Arbor Day. Typically, we do it in the morning, and it's typically village staff who are there to observe. But we're going to be starting around 3:30 at Ridge Street once the school is out, and then we'll start there. And then rather doing it at Harkness, we're going to do it over at Rye Hills Park, and it's going to be right next to Crawford. We'll walk over, so it'll make it a little bit easier for everyone. And then at
Excuse
Crawford,
me, what's the date again of
so
that?
it's the last Friday in April. So I
April 26th.
April
yes, thank you.
26th.
Yeah, so
And you
April
said it's
20.
all going to start at 3:30.
Yeah, so that's what based on our last meeting that we had, that's the direction it's going to go into. So again, we definitely want to have the school, considering that Ashley Weldy was on the school board and it was and the president and especially it was a big part of her life. So in this instance, it would be difficult to have it without including her in it. Because we still again for Arbor Day we're mandated just to do something irrespective, but we're still gonna do our part over at Rye Hills, and then the town we're still in a mini forest, and we're end like a reception. So give or take, without having it down to an exact precise schedule, you can give or take range about 3:30 to 6:30 is what we're looking at. Now, once again, if any of you who, and again, hopefully you guys will all make it. I understand again if some of you cannot, but if you have to either come later or leave earlier, we totally understand it is a Friday. And I did mention this to everyone else, who was part of that meeting that we definitely want to start like getting a sign up link soon, so that way we can people can lock in their schedules. Because on the Friday, which I totally understand that on a Friday night, people are going to want to after work or school are going to want to either relax at home or do other things. So we're going to try to get that in a couple weeks. The town said they're going to take care of that, so that way we can kind of get ahead of signups. So just
The
keep your
town is going to take care, I'm sorry, the town is going
yes.
to
So the
take care
town
of
is going to take care
advertising.
of taking creating like a sign up link for everybody.
Sign up so that people can
Well, we could
make
just
it like an
RSVP.
RSVP to know
Yes,
how many
and
people will be there.
yes, and the main reason for that is also particularly for the reception. Honestly, because we're gonna have a little bit of food, nothing too crazy, but so that way we don't order too little or order too much. But again, if you can't make the reception, not really, or again, if you can't make even the beginning part at Rye Hills, whatever you guys can fit into your schedule. But we'll have a sign up link come around in a couple weeks for those who want to particularly stay for the whole thing, but especially the end.
Will
But
it be advertised like on the Rye Brook the Rye Brook residents Facebook page?
absolutely, yeah. Considering that,
I think there's a lot of people in the community who are going to want to be involved.
I I think we'll have a big turnout for sure, and give you the honest answer. I mean, and Chris will tell you the same thing. What I'm about to say is that typically we've done it in the morning, so that way we can have like the
Yeah.
attendance of our village staff because they're the ones who go. Most of the time we do it at Harkness. That way we can include like the roots and shoots and the students from the high school. Now, in this instance, that's why we have no problem switching because we don't think we're going to have that issue. In this case, where we're going to have probably dozens of people is what we're expecting to come between all three events. We could have more, but at the bare minimum, that's what we're expecting.
I think there'll be more.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is, but needless to say, irrespective of the exact number, I think we're going to get a healthy turnout, and we're not going to have the concern of just having, like we have had to do at other ones, just having bodies there so we have an audience. But we're doing it more of like an Ashley Weldy day, is how we're kind of
That's,
arranging. So we're doing like three events
that's
in one. But
terrific.
yeah, and working as a team because we want all three of us want to work together to make this easier on everyone. And as I said previously, the people we especially want to make it easier for is her family. But I think it's going to work out. And again, we still have a month to go, but we're getting jump started in this early, so we everything goes as smoothly as possible. But again, I will take any questions you guys have them, but that's pretty much the gist of what we're going to be doing. Now we're going to have another meeting and another next Friday to kind of just update like ourselves and just get on some further progress. Um, but that's at least where things stand now.
That sounds great. Bridget, you've told Catherine about all
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah, she knows. I need to update her on the time, but she did know about the date.
Okay.
So I
Since
had a
this, she originally brought all this to our attention. So, right?
yeah, yeah, she wanted to help with the tree and all of that. So yes, she's definitely in the know about what's going on. I did have a few things written down as far as like things we might need to figure out for this event.
Mhm.
Um, One was, of course, like in keeping, now that you mentioned like there's going to be food, all that sort of stuff. Are we going to try to have composting at the event? Like Ashley was really gung ho about that. Just so you know, like that was like a
Oh,
huge thing for her is
yes.
like doing composting at all these events. So I would love to see like if food's being provided that we use like eco-friendly materials because I think in keeping in her memory and in her spirit,
Hmm.
that's something that she would have really wanted because she was always very like, how are we doing this? And like, I mean, I know we can provide some of that stuff, but I would hate to get there and see that there's like tons of plastic stuff like being thrown away and
Oh,
everything at like an event that's in her honor.
that's an excellent idea. She
So
always manned that. She was
yeah,
always the
exactly.
one at the bin to make sure
Exactly.
everyone did that.
Yeah, and she always wanted like all the village events to have composting. So
Hmm.
it's kind of yeah. So
Yeah.
that's something I wrote down. We do still have a ton of those wildflower seeds. I was thinking maybe we could attach like a little note or something to them and like hand them out at her memorial as like a little something people could take with
Yeah.
them, like maybe a little photo of her. And just say like a little note from the sustainability committee, like, thank you, please spread these seeds in her
Yeah.
honor, you know. That's just an idea I had because we do have so many extras, so that's totally free. We would just have to like attach whatever we
I,
want to
I
them.
like that. I like that.
Other things, this is more is what I know that they're going to have a memorial plaque. I on the tree, the one that's at Harkness Park. That one's going to have a plaque at it. We don't know what it's going to say at this point, but I believe we have the choice of what we want to put on that in her honor. And so I don't know if we want to do something simple, just like a little line. We can even do something that's just like in memory of, but that's something to think about because they do have to prepare that, I believe, probably pretty soon
Yes, sooner
for,
rather than later, again, because but also
yeah.
whatever idea you come up with, I want to give that to Robert Bertolacci so that way he can tell me if this is okay or not in terms of is it too much, too little, write him out.
Can we start like an email,
Yeah,
like
that's what I was
a
thinking.
draft group? I mean, I think something should be in it about what kind of a advocate she was for sustainability in our community.
Yeah, and I did tell them, I did request that they plant a native oak tree in her honor because that's one that supports a lot of life. It's known as being one of the most wildlife friendly trees that you can plant. So
Mhm.
that's the one that we requested was I believe it's a white oak, I think. For there. And so that's what they were trying to get. If not, they were going to do another native tree. So that will be there. There's also the thought of now, mind you, this is Ashley Weldy Day, so like I'm sure there's going to be a lot of speeches, so we don't want to be like hammering people too much, you know. I feel like if we do say anything, it should be like a 1 minute sort of thing where it's just very short and sweet. You know, obviously it can be a little bit longer than that, but like I just know like people aren't going to want to sit through like 25, 30-minute speeches, you know. So, if anyone in particular feels like they really want to say something and they really want to like, you know, say something in memorial of her, more than happy to have you go up and talk. I just want to figure out who's doing that. We can just have one person from the committee do that. It also depends on time, you know, like Greg said, this is starting at 3:30, but it finishes probably at around 6.
Yeah,
And
so
there's two
Bridget, just the
locations.
idea is that just so everyone has a context. So give or take, we're kind of like anticipating about half an hour per location.
Okay.
So like half an hour they get at Ridge Tree, half an hour Rye Hills, and then I mean Crawford Park was going to be like about an hour, give or take, because it's microphones and reception. But we're also accounting for like minutes of travel time as well,
Yeah.
getting from location to. But half an hour is what we're expecting, give or take, to be per site. Well, no, at Ridge Street and Rye Hills. I mean, Rye Hills will have a little bit, probably a little more leeway because I mean we're literally going to be right next to Crawford, so I might have a little bit more leeway there, but let's try to stay within that range. And just keep in mind that even though again it's not like a meeting and we still have to publish it like or into the paper, we publish it like on the site, and then I still hand it to the Westmore News. I'm sure, and the Westmore News typically always comes, and I'm sure for this one especially, given how it's going to be, but the biggest one probably in years, they will come. But I'm gonna have to mark down in terms of what are for ours at least, not necessarily not what the school district's going to do or Crawford's going to do, but I'll still have to jot it down what our agenda is.
Okay.
Okay. So there are, Greg, are there two locations or three locations?
Three. So it's
Three. Okay. What is the second location?
so the second one will be ours. So first we're gonna start at Ridge Street,
Oh,
right when the school said because they want to show us their greenhouse. I've never seen it. I have no idea what it is or what it looks like. Um, and again, that's done really so we can fit the school in because that's when their school day ends. And then I keep mixing. So from Ridge Street, we're gonna go to Rye Hills, and then Rye Hills we'll walk right over next to Crawford.
okay.
Right, and everybody could probably park at Crawford, walk to
Yeah,
Rye
and then walk
Hill,
back.
and back. Yeah,
So
that makes
exactly,
sense.
and that's
That'll
designed.
save time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's designed to save time and make it easier.
And this is a come and go event where people can come and go. They, you don't have to attend the whole thing, of course.
Yeah,
So
like I said,
people
do
might
what you
show up
can
at the
fit in
end.
your schedule.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be there like in Chris. I mean, we're gonna be there the whole from the time it starts and the time it ends.
Hmm.
But again, it really is up to you guys in terms of how much you guys can fit in. Now, if you guys can stay there from beginning to end, great. But I understand that it is a give or take. It'll be about a 3 hour commitment. So I do understand if you guys can't. But that's why I told and we agreed collectively as a group, the ones who are involved in this. And again, I did again, Bridget, like I said, because you are the chair, so I did send the meeting invite to Bridget. Again, if she can make it, she can't, but then I'm that'll be a part of it, and I'm just gonna keep informing you guys myself. Um, but again, whatever you guys can fit in is fine. But we are gonna just get this out as soon as possible, so that way everyone can start planning their schedules accordingly.
And they are planting a tree at each location, right? So there'll be
Well,
three
I
trees planted, or
I don't know for Rye. I did it again. Sorry. I don't know for Ridge Street if they're gonna plant anything there. It may just be showing off the greenhouse. No, we are because that's what we do every year for Arbor Days. That we always plant the tree and usually a plaque. I think that for the town it's like a microforest that they want to show or like help maybe like
dedicated
do a little work
microforest.
here.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the reception will
Okay.
be followed after that.
So I guess this is something we can like Robin said, try to figure out via email. You know, I have this all written down with the schedule, which I'll email with that. But figure out what we're doing for the memorial plaque, who is speaking. I can also ask Catherine if she would want to introduce, you know, Catherine's the former head of the sustainability committee. So
She
she worked
also
with Ashley
worked
for
with Ashley.
yeah, she worked with Ashley for a very long time. She was the one that was really like wanting this to happen. So I can ask her as well, but just like if we are doing some sort of speech, who wants to do that? And if we're doing composting, who would be in charge of manning that? Because you usually do need a person. Um, for the flower seeds, I can certainly put something together for that and work that out. But yeah, I don't know, Greg, as far as like having compostable, let's say plate, compostable utensils, if we're doing that, would we need to provide that in this case to make sure the event's like sustainable and to encourage people to like, you know, do
Well,
that, or is this
well,
something that the park does?
well, let me see. Let me bring it towards the meeting. Maybe the town may have some things we could tap into. I don't know for sure, but
Yeah.
it's definitely, and this is why again I want to have the discussion with you guys because then we have our next meeting. These are things that I can bring forward to the rest of the group.
Okay. Perfect. So, I feel like that's a good start. I feel like if we figure this out, hopefully, what's today? Let's see. Within the
14.
next like week or so, then that'll be good. But yeah, I just hopefully we could make the event as eco-friendly as possible, in her honor. So, is that it, Greg, or do you want to move on to the next agenda item for now? Does
Well,
nobody have anything else?
unless anybody has any other questions or comments, I mean that's it from my end in terms of every update that I have.
Okay.
But if anybody else, again, because it is a group discussion, has any questions or comments before we move on, please feel free to do so.
I just wondered, and Lana, you might be able to answer this. What grades are the kids in now?
Oh, well, Jackson's in my grade. He's a senior, and I'm not sure about his younger sister.
Sophomore. She's a
Sophomore.
sophomore. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, does she have an older son as well? Like her stepson, I believe.
Stepson, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm sure all four of them will probably be there then.
Okay. So if everybody is okay with it, I'll move on to new business. So the first sort of 3 or 4 items of new business are all sort of when we just wanted to go over upcoming events. So we have community planting at the senior center, our seed swap, which we've sort of discussed already, Village Hall Butterfly Garden, and the community tag sale. For the community planting at the senior center, I'm going to let Greg go over that a little bit more because I know you know more of the details than I do about how that's going to go. So I'll let you cover that and then I'll cover the other 3 if that's okay.
Sure. So yeah, so it's a kind of like a town like sponsored event. But basically we try to get like Portchester, the town of Rye, Village of Rye, the city of Rye, and Mamaroneck. We all try to pick a site. And then so last couple of years, the AJP, which is our senior center, we're gonna try to do it again. I know Bridget, I know you texted it to me, just haven't had a chance to look of where I can just buy some plants.
Mhm.
Just to again put in some fresh ones. And I mean, it's not gonna be as labor intensive as it was the last couple of years. But just something nice just to make it look nice for the seniors and just again just native friendly so eco-friendly plants that we will put in for that day. From 9 to 11, it probably won't even, well, no, it almost certainly won't even take the whole 2 hours, maybe an hour. So again, if you guys do want to come around, just do it real quick. If you guys want to put in some plants, great. You guys can't make it, no big deal. But that's basically what we're going to be doing on that day. I think it's April 13th. I was looking at the calendar.
A lot
Yes.
of April things coming up.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the month. I mean, that's what Earth Day is. So, but again, that'll be quick. It's early in the morning, and then you guys can, if you guys do come, you guys can do whatever. You
What
have
time did you say it was? 9 a.m.?
yeah, these things are typically always, even ours, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is typically what it always is.
Okay. And what I suggested they plant, because Liz at the senior center was asking, she was like, what do you think we should put in between? We already have some really nice native plants that we put there that are coming back great. So we just want to put some things in between them. So I suggested that they install some really pretty native grasses that are kind of like almost decorative grasses. So they grow tall and like have a lot of nice interest even throughout the winter. So that's what we are potentially purchasing for them to install sort of in between things. And then also Liz said that she would like to have a native tree put on the property at the front of the senior center. So hopefully in the next year or two, they can be one of the recipients of the Rye Brook free trees during Earth Day. So maybe obviously not this year, but maybe next if we're able to. So. Okay, if nobody has any questions about that, I'll move on to the other events. So the seed swap, not much of an update, just that we've now advertised it. It's still going forward for the 20th. We have indoor-outdoor access, so should it rain, it'll still be on the same day, which is great. Hopefully it'll be a big turnout, but yeah, same as usual. If anybody wants to volunteer, more than welcome to. I plan on being there. And of course, Port Chester Sustainability, they also help organize this. So we usually have, a good amount of people, thankfully. Then the
That's
next,
March
oh,
20th?
I'm sorry, it's April 20th. And
And
that is, what is the time changed on my thing?
is
I
it
have it
typically
on
10,
the
10, 10 to 2?
advertisement.
Typically was what we do.
10 to 2 at the library?
Yeah.
It's a good site too, especially when we do it outside because it gets a lot of foot traffic. You have a bus stop right there, and it's just busy Portchester. So
Mhm.
I mean, again, that we do have people when as it gets closer, like Chris will put on the newsletter. I'll put it on our main social media pages, and then you have people who are just walking by and they're intrigued and they come up and they end up walking away with seeds. So it's a big hit.
Yeah, everybody loves free stuff, So it's
But
like, and I
that's
feel
also
like a
true.
lot of people are trying to do vegetable garden. We do give away, it's mostly native plants and seeds. We actually do have some live plants that people will bring too, so that's nice. But it's mostly native flowers, and then we do have like a small selection of vegetable and fruit seeds. So it's a lot of good stuff for everybody. So people always end up taking advantage, and we give away like a lot each time. So it's a really good event and easy to do. So that's always nice. The next item on the agenda was the Village Hall Butterfly Garden. I feel like that's, ongoing project. That'll probably always be on the agenda because we always need to update things there. Um, Me and Greg are trying to plan a time for us to meet at Village Hall so that I can look over what needs to be done in the butterfly garden. I mean, we always need to spruce it up, as far as like weeding everything and then potentially adding even more new flowers. Now, the good thing about this is because we've already done so much work, like the last time we did this, it didn't take nearly as long. So we don't need like 15 people to help. We probably just need like 4 or 5 people to do this. But I guess, Greg, we're thinking about buying some more plants, right? And then like doing a small planting and kind of just cleaning it up. So that will be scheduled for sometime soon as well.
Well, I think we were aiming for it now. Look at May 18th around there.
May 18th. Okay. And that's not going to be, oh yeah, May 18th. That is what I have written down. And that's not going to be in conjunction with like any of the other cleanup dates or anything, right? It's
No.
just kind of on its own. Okay. Because I know sometimes we like align it with
Yeah,
cleanups.
and I'll speak to Paul Vinci, our foreman, and
Okay.
yeah, I may even ask him just to make it easier for us come cleanup day if he can join us for the walkthrough because oftentimes what the main issue is that I mean I try to avoid as much as I can, but the guys don't want to go in there because they don't know like what to cut and what not like to cut, so they don't want to like cut any like the plants unintentionally that they shouldn't. So if we maybe like invite him, at least we can like kind of walk him through and explain it to him as well.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay, so the last event that we have then is the community tag sale, which Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember something changed. It's
Yes.
on the 27th is when we're doing it, or are we doing it
Oh,
20th now?
we originally remember discussed the 20th, but there's where the village wants to put another event that day for which is food trucks. So I did speak to Chris, and then our next meeting I'm gonna request, but I want to speak to you guys first if we can just do it on the 27th instead, because I don't want us to be competing with anything else. So if that's okay, then I'll request officially that the tax will be July 27th, and I'll lock that in so that way nothing else gets put at that time.
Yeah, that's great for me. That's the day I had written down anyway, so that works.
Did we have a rain date or no?
I
Oh,
don't
It will probably end up being the next day.
Okay. Oh yeah, 27th and the next day, the 28th. Okay. And then we did say that when we talked about this last time, I remember we all kind of agreed that we wanted to set the trend of like if we do the last Saturday in July, we want to repeat that every year, ideally, so that people know, okay, it's the last Saturday in July. The rain date's always on the Sunday. So we don't have to like go through all this back and forth every single time and then have a million people asking us when it is, so we just like set the date and that's it. So I feel like that's what we're doing this time is like just setting it and then hopefully it goes forward, got a hitch, and we're good for the future.
But Bridget, one question that I have personally on this is now I know that F10 is no longer
Mhm.
operating, but would it still be possible for like, for example, like our HOAs, like some of them don't allow it.
Mhm.
And sometimes again, because I mean last year News 12 did like a small 30-second piece on it. They didn't even
Mhm.
tell me. I found out because that somebody tried to register from like Orange County, and then I
Yeah.
found out from there. Which is fine. I don't really care if people want to participate from another state. Can they do you think it will still be okay if they utilize that location?
I think so. I will ask Michael once we're done with this meeting, because it was always F10 and the adoption agency together that did it.
Okay.
The adoption agency is still there and is still operating. So it could still benefit them, doing it. So I will ask them if they're interested in that. I'm sure they probably would be, but I'll get confirmation from them
Yeah.
as
And
soon as
one of
I
the things that I'm going to do since News 12 decided to do it, I'm going to see if they can, because this is an event where we want to give it as much publicity as possible. Because again, hopefully we can draw people from all over the place. So I'm going to reach out to News 12 in advance to see if they can do, if they can't do like another small piece, at least another small piece, or if they want to do like a bit of a larger story on it, that'd be great. Again, I mean, of course, we'll promote it on the village's end. But one of the things that maybe Bridget, as we can tell Michael, is just to make it a little bit more of a better deal for them is that anybody who wants to use it, they probably got to maybe make them pay the fee in advance, and it's non-refundable because last year you guys ran into that problem where some people said they wanted it, and just didn't show up.
Yeah, and I mean they'll know ahead of time that the rain date is the day afterwards, so but I'll tell him all of that and I'll let you know what he says. If not, I suppose we could always talk to like some of the like maybe some other spaces to see if they'd be interested. I know certain parking lots like the I think this doesn't the synagogue do like a tag sale like once a year, but they do it on a different date usually. Like
API.
yeah, I think KTI does a tag sale.
I
But
think
like
they used
maybe
to.
getting other places interested, if not. But I guess let's figure out if F10, the former F10 space wants to do it on the Forever Homes through adoption. If they want to be involved still, and if so, then I could always help them out with that. So
Okay.
okay, so that was the last event that we had. Um, Greg, I'm gonna let you take the next one. Actually, the rest of the items because those are all ones that you know more about than I do. So I'll let you take it away from 4.5 to the end.
Yeah. I don't have the agenda in front of me, so I'm just going to go based off of what I remember. So the first thing though, I do just want to quickly talk about is I know I sent you guys the flyer in the email for that kind of like land use training over in by Pace Law School. Now I'm gonna go, but we it is open to one of you. I believe it's April 8th and April 22nd. It is an all day thing, and you have to commit to both sessions, but it's both days. But again, if any of you want to go, um, again, we can take one. Then just let me know, and of course I'll happily sign you up. But again, you'll definitely it's an opportunity for you to learn more about again land use and be more like, eco-friendly laws, etc. So it seems interesting, and again, I'm definitely excited for it myself. But if that is going to interest anybody, just please just reach out to me. And just it's an opening for one of you to attend. Now the big one though is yeah, I also mentioned this in my emails too. It's just that the village board has decided to at least begin the process of taking up green building like a construction legislation again. So I know that because Michael, thank you for sending me all those emails because I did go through a lot of it. Like years ago that the community did take this up and provide like a recommendation to the board. And what happened was I can say that February like of 2020, right before the pandemic, the board was discussing it at a board meeting. And we're going to follow up, but then COVID hit and that pushed this issue completely to the back burner. But this is something that I know I mentioned before. I definitely want us to take a look at, and the board also did as well. So, but what the board wants to do, really to start with, is they want to create like an interdepartmental task force. So we have two trustees on it, two members of the planning board, and they're hoping to get two volunteers of the sustainability committee on it. So give or take between those three committees, well, two committees as well as the trustees, just to kind of look through it and then maybe look and provide any recommendations to like the rest of the trustees and to Chris and myself. Now we may end up taking no action, but this is at least the first that the board wants to do because of course there's a lot of moving parts here. And Michael, I do see your hands raised, and I do definitely want to hear to know that you have a lot of expertise in this area.
Isn't it?
But if anybody, of course, if we is interested, please let me know, and then I'll send that over to the board. Michael, did you want to make
Yeah, no, just had a quick question. Is Jonathan Metz still on the Architectural Review Board? Do you
I,
know?
it sounds familiar.
Yeah, no,
I
only
think yes
because,
now. I would say yes, but I'm not entirely sure because I don't work with them.
yeah,
But
no, just mentioned it because he knows a ton about green building codes, and that's part of what he does for a living as an architect. He's kind of his firm's green building code expert. So I was just mentioning to the extent that you're putting a task force together, I know he's not technically on one of the committees, but again, if he's still around and interested, I don't think you're going to find a better qualified person for the job than him.
I'm happy to reach out to him. I'm happy to bring that to the board and give that was recommendation. But if anyone who does have, I mean, me personally, I can't speak on behalf of Chris or the rest of the trustees here, but just speaking on behalf of myself, if anybody does have like that type of expertise, I agree with you, Michael, that would be invaluable. So again, I have no problem reaching out to him if he's interested, and then bringing back to the rest of the to our trustees to consider him for as part of the task force. But again, I said it is open. Again, I'm not gonna, of course, strong on anybody. But if we can have two people who are at least willing to consider volunteering, Debbie did tell me that she was is happy to she was considering it herself. But if anybody else is, I'm happy to consider it. That'd be great. And then we'll take it. Not again, we'll probably not try to make it super complicated, not make it long-winded. Um, and I'm just gonna be honest, is that I don't have an exact yet in terms of how long looking for go on. I can say can't imagine it's gonna be too long. Um, but again, we do have a lot of background information already, so it's again you can look over that. And again, nothing may end up coming from it in terms of what actions it may take, but this is just the direction that the board has decided to take now before they like pursue any sort of like code changes in the immediate future.
Okay. Yeah, so if anybody is interested, that would be, you said we need two people?
I yeah, that they were requested to from each committee
Okay, from each committee. Okay.
that I mentioned, but again, if we can only get one, if I can get Jonathan as the sub, I'm happy to do that, especially since if Michael said if he has that expertise, I mean, and again, like I said, I don't want to speak out of term, but I don't see why not, because he has all that expertise that I know I certainly don't have. Um, but I will definitely bring that back to the board.
Michael, do you have the recommendation that we had put together all those years ago?
I'm
That
sure
written somewhere?
yeah, I'm sure I do somewhere.
I think you did
Um,
send it to me, Michael. I have
I
it.
think, okay, yeah, I
You
think I
have
sent
it?
Greg everything I have.
Yeah.
Because we had spent a lot of time talking, and Mr. Metz came and talked to us and gave us advice. And before we start reinventing the wheel, maybe we want to look over what was already written by the committee and agree or disagree or edit what's already there. That just might be a more efficient plan.
No, that makes sense. And look, at the very least, I'm happy just so because I know that not all of you. I mean, first of all, it's been a number of years, so you'd be forgiven if you didn't remember exactly everything which you guys discussed. And some of you, assuming weren't even there at the time when that was discussed to begin with. Well, I know some of you weren't. So at least whatever Michael you send me, I can just disperse that to everybody here, so you guys can just look through it at your leisure. But
Who was on the committee at that time? Michael, you and I were on it. Anyone else here on that?
now it goes back to 2017 based on some of the documents I was reading.
It was a lot of time and a lot of discussion on that. A lot. So I would almost feel like I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think everyone would understand why we recommended at that time what we recommended rather than starting all the way from scratch. The idea of starting from scratch is almost more than I can bear.
I understand that. I think like the main rationale for the board, because it's been like 4 years and they discussed it, and one of the board members
Absolutely.
wasn't even there, the trustees, and it's just
Absolutely.
explain, yeah, just explain their rationale, and they don't, and honestly, they don't even
Absolutely.
remember what
But
they.
I remember things like, and maybe Michael, you remember things like that too, that we felt that it would be imposition. And I think Ashley was very involved in that discussion too. It would be a major imposition on residential people, but these were things that we were recommending for any commercial construction that might be going on. And we talked about incentives and the it might have been Chris Bradbury at the time who told us the district can't, I mean the town village can't give money for these things. There were just so many details of the plan that were laid out in that. And I'm sure if I saw it again, that Michael, I think you and I would come back to us why we came up with what we came up with at that time.
Right, and it was 2017 that we did all of that. I mean, I just looked quickly at the documents that I
Agenda.
have. But yeah, no, I'll take a look and see where and maybe send out to the committee where we ended up.
I think that might be a good place to start. And then if there are things that have really drastically changed, Jonathan might be able to tell us if things have changed since that time. But I would find that hard to believe.
So we had our legal counsel, and I know because I was going through old again. Obviously, this is before. I mean, I came to the village.
Right.
But we did have a legal counsel draft like a memo for us. Now that memo is 4 years old, so it's outdated in the sense that like what all the model ordinances of what other municipalities in the county have done. It's been 40 years, so I'm sure there's been several changes, or at least a few, I shouldn't say several, at least a few changes with several of these municipalities' codes in various different directions. Um,
I don't
now
know if things have gotten stricter or less strict, but we did discuss we talked over a lot of those things at that time. It's right up there with the planting of trees and the leaf blower as far as long-winded, long discussions. Really, very thorough. That's
Lord.
not to say that people in the committee might see it and say, oh, that's not reasonable, or that's reasonable, or whatever. But I really think it was a very thorough, and I don't know about you, but 2017, it doesn't feel that long ago.
I wouldn't be surprised if the landscape's changed a little bit in terms of the way the code's written, the laws that are out there, what other municipalities have done.
And that's what I mean. Yes, what Michael just said is that I'm sure the
Might have
landscape
gotten
is probably
stricter.
Yeah,
and
just
maybe
more,
not.
or the way details are, more either comprehensive or just learning from experience with codes.
Yeah. Well, again, I think starting with what was written up at that time would be a good place to start rather than a blank sheet. That's my vote.
Yeah, and that's and again, I don't disagree. I think at the very least that irrespective of whatever comes of any of the board's wishes for like a task force, I think that at least for all of you guys to either for those of you there refresh your memory, and for those of you who weren't to at least see what was discussed at that time.
Right. Exactly.
But again, and we'll see where this goes. But hopefully at least again one of you will can consider at least at a future point, at least we get even at, once you guys have a chance to review it, at least discussing it like further with the other members of the trustees and the planning board. Um, I guess that we can take it from there.
Mhm.
But Michael, I will take your suggestion in terms of Jonathan Betts to the again I'll reach out to him too because I'm not going to volunteer him for something that without even speaking to him about it. But I'm happy to at least reach out to him to see what he thinks.
Great.
And maybe don't tell him I volunteered him.
Because he's going to say, didn't I spend a lot of time with you guys before?
Our wives are friends, and I don't want to, I don't want him to like punch me or something
Oh, yeah.
next time.
He's going to.
Yeah.
He's going to say, you didn't listen before?
Yeah.
You can just blame it on me, Michael.
All right.
All right.
Okay, great. Well, that was actually the last item on our agenda. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Greg, but
Yeah,
not
no,
during the meeting.
just one quick side note since Robin brought it up. So it is March, but just a quick reminder since that we did a very long-winded discussion. I mean, that one I was part of, so that one of course, that was just very recent about leaf blowers. But just remember, May 1st is when it takes effect, so we're getting right around the corner from that. But again, an opportunity again to thank you for all the guys for all the work and all that, all of you here, all like the hours and hours we discussed it, but it is what you guys work. It is going to come into fruition in about a month when all those changes are going to take effect.
Perfect.
Is there anything we need to do in terms of community education or anything we can support with that?
Yeah, reminders like
Mm-mm.
people forget.
No, absolutely, and we're going to do that as well in the villages end. So Chris and I have discussed that. That we're going to give like social reminders either through our social media channels or newsletter channels. And again, if you guys have any other ideas, by all means. So, but at least for the village, and we are going to give out reminders to the residents to let them know, or to remind them at least, because again, we did send out a couple messages aftermath that it did pass, but to remind everybody, um, that it is taking effect. Remember, come May 1st, for the exception of the properties that I mentioned, at least 5 acres. Now, what the board has done is that they've only given out 1 and 2 years, but the ones that got 2 years, even most of the 1 years, they had to implement um, a fair amount of electric in their practices in order to get it to begin with. But for all like most like the single family homes and the properties below 5 acres, all of them now have to use electric during that time period from May 1st to September 30th. So again, it's our first time doing this in Rye Brook, but I do think now again the law was a perfect no, as I told everybody that. Um, both all like the applicants who I met with about their applications, including residents who have called me, either some not happy that it didn't go far enough, or some that they didn't want it at all. But I do think that we came up with the best possible compromise that was in our power to do so.
Great. I know I had sent some ideas for like things to give to residents or to hang on their doors or put in their mailbox. I can try to find that again, but you probably already have it, to be honest, because I think I emailed it to you before. But I'll try to locate it if not, because it might just be saved in my files somewhere. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. And we will get the email started for Ashley Weldy Day to work out some of the details that we need worked out.
Our next meeting is when?
Be the first Thursday in April, unless we have to move for any other reason, like we did for this month. But other than that, it's always the first Thursday in the month.
And this is also my last meeting, so I just want to say thank you. It's been a really great opportunity to
Oh,
be on
we're
the
gonna miss
committee.
you.
Thank you,
Did you
Lana.
know you have to
Thank
get
you.
another
Lana.
student to replace you when you leave? Was
You
that
know,
ever?
maybe I can convince someone.
Thank you, Lana, and congratulations on graduating.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
To
Good
see you
luck with college. I'm sure you don't need luck, but good luck.
Where are you headed? Where are you headed?
I'm not sure yet, still waiting.
You haven't decided.
Yeah,
You have until May 1st, right?
right. Everything's coming out in the next few weeks.
Oh, nice.
Well, best of luck, and it makes me feel old. It wasn't too long ago for me, and I can only imagine how the rest of you feel. Not throwing shade at
Hey,
anybody,
hey, hey,
but
hey.
Oh.
like I said, I'm not throwing shade at anybody, um, but
Even
it
my
does.
children feel like that would be old. So how do you like that?
But but again, but Point Blank, it wasn't that long ago for me, so I remember those days well. So, best of luck in the next few weeks, as they come out.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good
You.
night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.